Hello, and welcome back to Thirsty Thursday, where we cover the week's marketing headlines and get our inspiration from what brands big and little are doing. Today, we have a special guest. Welcome, Angelique.
Hello, hello. Hello, hello.
Angelique Beignet is a social media consultant and the founder of Social Media Love. I love watching some of the things that you talk about in the social space, Angelique, and I can't wait to get your thoughts on some of these stories because you have quite a few viral gone well and viral gone badly stories today, don't we?
Yeah. Yeah, it was so interesting to read. Like, I don't sit like that for 2 hours and go through so many articles usually. And I loved it because, like, oh, that's so cool. Thank you, Suzanne, for the press review.
That's
I
awesome.
love it.
I found, it's funny, early in my life, when I was in university, I didn't love like news. Like my journalism teacher actually told me that I was bad at it. And I feel like this is vindication because I've come back around for a real deep love of news. The reason I
Yes.
was bad at it is because I could never come to the point. I'm a storyteller, by the way.
Oh,
I
yeah, I
prefer
know.
to give
I know
give you
that.
the
Yeah. So for me, it's kind of the contrary. I spent my first, I don't know, until 35 as a news junkie. Like, even still at my parents' house in France, they still have like cardboards of, it was newspaper cutting like articles, so it's still there. This, I have to get rid of it. It's time to, the house is
it's time
invaded
to
by my stuff.
declutter.
So I was a news junkie. I became a journalist. So and then when I kind of moved away from news, um just for my own sanity, and I wanted to share women's stories
I
and
love
my
that.
story. So now I love when I get a little concentrate. I need to know what I need to know, and that's it. Let's move on.
I love that. So without further ado, let's jump into some of the news of the week. So today is Remembrance Day, and there's a couple of things that we wanted to talk about. The first is the value of a symbol, and I think the poppy is the symbol of Remembrance Day, and today is the 100th anniversary of the poppy itself. It's linked back to the poem, obviously, which is Flanders Field. So I thought that was very interesting. We talk a lot about visual symbols and look and feel and all of those things in social, and I think this is a very powerful one. So the story of the poppy is worth paying attention to today. And then I know you and I talked about this one a lot. It was very, very cool. There is a heartwarming story from the UK for today that I wanted to touch on. Many of us know Banksy, the graffiti artist who shows up when there's particularly important historical and milestone moments, and puts up graffiti in various places. So there's a new woman, Angelique, who's emerged, and she's calling herself Knitting Banxy, and Banksy with an X, because you want to make sure you're not using somebody else's name. And what she does is she leaves various knitted pieces, and previously she's been putting it on top of post boxes in different places. And for today, for Memorial Day, she knitted this whole entire piece. This is,
Yeah. I wonder
knitting.
how
That's
many hours is that behind this. It
that's
looks soft. I
incredible.
would like to touch it.
Yeah. And so she's come forward and said that she's doing this, and it's to honor the fallen on today. So I thought that was a really good, heartwarming story about how you can make a difference, even with something like knitting, which many of us are like, oh, okay, that's not the coolest thing.
Well, yeah, it's like bringing softness to something that is not soft.
I
And
so agree. Well said. Well said. It is bringing softness to something that isn't soft.
and if you allow me, because it's Remembrance Day, and I'm from France, so the poppies are all over the place. When I moved to Canada, and I saw that it was really, the big thing in Canada, I was like, oh, that's so cool. But I want to kind of pay um, remembrance to my two grandfathers who talked to me about the wars a lot, and they told me the worst thing you can live in your life is a war. So I just want to pay tribute to them because
Wait,
I'm lucky enough that I am in countries where we don't have the war on the ground here. So I just wanted to pay tribute to them. Thank
thank you.
you.
That's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing. That's amazing. Um, So on then to another heartwarming story, not to do with Remembrance Day, but I really enjoyed reading about this. This is about Marcus Rashford, who's the Manchester United soccer player, and he this week received one of the highest honors from the British government. So he got a medal, which is an MBE from Prince William, and the reason for his for being honored with this award is that he did a lot of amazing work during the pandemic for underprivileged children. And one of the things that he did was providing meals, like making sure that the kids who are going to school and they're not available during the summer, school's not on in the summer, and what happens to them, like how do they, when they were getting some meals from the school, if the school is not open, that really makes it hard. So I think sometimes in a position of privilege, we don't often think about how things are for other people, right? You make decisions, and someone like this coming forward and being like, listen, those kids will not have food and we need to make alternative plans, and following through, that's amazing. I'm glad to see this is happening.
Yeah, I like how sports, whether it's the Olympics or big World Cup stuff, like it's always an opportunity to talk about either social issues or countries, like diplomacy stuff. And so that's another example of using sports and figures in that world to bring something bigger even than sports on the table, right? Like feeding the kids.
I know, it's using your powers for good, right? I really like that. And I think it stood out for me that Marcus Rashford was one of the players who missed that epic goal during,
Yeah.
that big game. And there was a lot of hate that was towards him. There was a mural of him on a wall, and people were defacing that mural. Obviously, people came to the rescue as well. But I think that in the light of all of that trolling and hate, that you still go through with your mission, and this is the reward. And I think it was amazing that he mentioned his mother. You were into that, right?
Yes, yeah, like he tweeted about his mom, but and I think it was tweeting back to the prince and saying thank you, we had a good time. He didn't say my mom and I, he say mom and and I thought it was cool that he just called his mom publicly, like mom, and not my mom. I just love that.
Yes, I love that. That is, such a small distinction, but so well said. If you look at his Instagram, which I went and poked around in, I think his grace and awesomeness is sort of coming through. He wore a Burberry suit to the event, and he, like you said, he thanked his mom, and he talked about how humble he feels to be in this position. So that whole story made me happy. From there, we're going to move to something that both of us, we thought was a little bit, is this still happening? Are we still doing this?
One.
Which is basically People has released their Sexiest Man Alive, which they do every year. And this year it's Paul Rudd. Tell me your thoughts, Angelique.
Well, it's just, and I don't know, I told you that before the show, maybe we're in a different season in our lives where this is not the topic. This is not what we want to talk about. We're to a season of our life where we are, we know what we want. We know our purpose. We want to, we don't want to attach to that barometers of how we look. And don't get me wrong, it looks good. Not my type, but that's okay. Like, good for him. But, and actually he takes, in the article, the clips that there, it's like, he's like making fun of it. Like he's taking it like with a grain of salt, which is cool.
I like that too.
It just sounds like from an passé to, I don't know, especially, I don't know, for women, the same, but women were more accustomed to it, but I don't know.
It feels a little, the time for it is past. Yeah, I completely agree with you. When I saw it, I was like, much like you, I was like, well, I can see why. I mean, he's definitely an attractive man. He doesn't seem to age at all. However, I think what you said about the way he has dealt with it, he's like, oh, all my friends are going to mock me and my wife laughed at me. That said, he's like, I'm going to make business cards and I'm going to tell everyone that I'm the sexiest man alive. So he really is taking it with a grain of salt, and he's doing the best he can. But I think the wider point remains that the time for sort of ranking or judging or deciding somebody's merit based on their physical appearance, it has passed 100%.
Well, I think
And
there is so much movement. Like, I'm not saying that we're out of it, but there's so much things that happened in the last 20 years about, you're not what you look like. You're beyond, like,
you're
beyond
more
that,
than that. Yes,
right?
100%. Yeah, 100%.
There's so
Um,
much, there's so much pain actually from people who think they are who what they look like, and they're sad and depressed, and they like. I'm a, how can I say that? I am a bulimic recovery girl from
right.
way long time, and I know what it is to suffer from what you perceive of what you look like. And for me, that was one of my big hardship. And I
Right.
understand, like, that's why those titles, like,
They're uncomfortable. I That's such a good
like,
point that you're making. It goes so far beyond, like an obvious fun thing. And like this, the time for this is truly past, because like you said, there are people who struggle with so many like self the perception of how you look issues. Should we be adding to it with magazine culture? Yeah, well, the next story, and this is a virality story. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. If you've been following along on social media, especially Instagram, the last few days, you probably might have seen a lot of people posting pictures of their pet. It might be a cat or a dog. A lot of people, including celebrities, got involved. And the reason for that is that there was a campaign that came up from an entity called Plant a Tree Co. And they said that we will plant a tree for every pet picture. Except it sounds like these people were not prepared for how many people would do it, because 4 million people did it. And you had some thoughts around preparing for social media, whether it's good or bad. Talk to me.
yeah. Well, first, social media works.
It sure does. It sure does. It really does work.
And we hear so much of, that's social media, that's fluffy, that's a waste of time, that's horrible, that's whatever. And don't get me wrong, there is that also, but it's just, for me, when I read that story, it's a good example of taking seriously your influence on social media. Like, when you
Yes.
post something, it might work and it might not work, but it's beyond that. Initially, especially if you're a brand or an organization, you really have to see how this campaign going to serve your purpose, your mission as
Yes.
a brand. And then once it's done, making sure that you're ready for the reactions. So if there is no reactions, that you revise. But this campaign had a lot of reactions, and the company was not ready for that big
No,
splash. So,
not at
and then
all.
it became a PR nightmare. Like, we
Hmm.
want this, but we don't have that. So we told you this, but it's not really what we were doing.
Trying
And
to
then,
do, yeah.
I mean, it's a great example of being fooled by your own success, right?
Yes.
And so what I like about the thing, so I went and checked them out. They're trying to be transparent more and more. Like, so you have a few posts that explains, we screwed it up, we didn't know that it would happen. So, but then they got worse. They said, we're gonna do a fundraiser instead, and then I don't know. It's very muddy and muggy,
Correct.
sticky.
It clearly indicates that somebody just put it out there, and then this is kind of what happens for, like, I guess, first time viral situations. Everyone wants to be viral, but when true
It
virality
happens.
happens, can you
Yeah,
deal with it? And
yeah,
I think they did pivot and try to say that they're going to now raise the funds and give it to an organization they are not affiliated with. As well, in the same piece and a few other pieces I saw, the talk of collectivism and the idea that we all want to be sitting behind our screens and contributing to good. I want to believe that most people want to do good in the world, right? And if by clicking and posting a picture of my dog somehow the world becomes a better place, it's easy to jump on that trend. And I was wondering what your thoughts are around how we can work collectivism into our social media presence as brands. You don't want to be like, ooh, I want attention and therefore I am standing for this purpose. Instead, it's like, people want purpose, let me articulate mine.
yeah.
So talk to me.
And people are into, if you're not boring on social media, and by boring, I'm not saying that you have to be the most in-depth person and theory and stuff. The best post, and that's an example, show us your dog or your cat and this gonna happen. People love showing their pets. So,
Yes.
or, all those posts about, tell us how you feel today. If you mean it, don't post that. If you don't mean it, that's all about the meaning. So it's how much pets means to people. So if you play with their emotion, anything that's gonna make people feel a sense of belonging or well-being, people are gonna react. Those posts gonna react. And I think that's what we know. Pets are a big thing. I work for different brands, and each time we do a campaign around pets, it works. But be careful, be ready that it works. It's awesome. But do it from a place that's genuine, that people really care. And I think that sense of, belonging, look at our dogs, or I think it was cats, right? Look at our cats. People love to feel that they belong to a community. And I want to share that with the world. So when you post and you talk about the click thing, make sure you respect your audience. You're very trustworthy, and whatever you want them to do, that it really gonna inspire your audience and not put them in a situation that they're gonna completely lose trust in, because this is what happened with that company. That's gonna be they're gonna have to work hard to go back online and build back that trust. People are real people online. They're real with the heart and the brain.
Yes.
So be careful what you ask them to click for, because they're gonna click. Click is easy. It's harder. We were talking about the challenge, the
ice bucket challenge.
That was a big challenge. You had to have the bucket and the water and the ice water, and then you had to film it, and then you had to be so cold. So that was
it's a lot of engagement. Yes. Yeah.
People were ready to do that because they felt they would, stand out from the crowd. So anything that comes and point what drives us as humans and make us feel we belong to something, gonna work on social media. Now, the easiest, the better, because people don't have time to do the bucket challenge all the time. So if you ask for a click, it's an easy one, but make sure it's a click of love. Again.
Yes, I love that. Click of love, folks. Look for a click of love. From there, we'll quickly jump to the Astroworld tragedy. So there was, last week was that the concert, which went horribly wrong. There was a major tragedy with 50,000 people, and with all the crushing throngs, 8 people died, including a teenager. And obviously, since then, Travis Scott, whose festival it was, has come forward and offered to pay for some of the expenses of the people who've been hurt and injured. And TikTok. Now, there's a couple of things that happened here. TikTok, the algorithm of TikTok, really, as the headline says, wasn't prepared for this. People were watching this. They looked up a few things, and more terrible clips of the accident and people getting crushed and stuff were being surfaced by TikTok, even up until yesterday. So I think while they've taken down some of the videos, there were a lot of conspiracy theories that abounded, which were talking about how this was a satanic festival and those people were killed as part of a ritualistic sacrifice. And you know how social media is. There's good and it's bad. There's people out there who are going to make a story out of everything. So I have stayed off TikTok for the last couple of days because I don't want to see any of those videos. And because I do this segment and look up a lot of news, I get served a lot of rubbish.
Yeah. But I love that you said that. I got served a lot of rubbish because, yes, algorithm, they're made up by the platforms and what they, prioritize. There are thousands of components. But basically, the more engagement, the more it ranks up the content. But at the end of the day, you're the one with the thumb on the phone. So do you want, most humans want to feel good, or they don't want to feel good and they want to stay in what's trash and what's sad. And so it's really a choice. Again, it's like what we said, I don't dismiss that there is rubbish online. There is rubbish even without online world.
Yes.
It's just easier to see it online because it's right there. Right?
Yeah.
You don't have to go anywhere. But it's at the end of the day, do you want to share someone that is dying in a crowd? This is a social responsibility. I think. I think, and I'm not saying that they should not remove the videos or, fix the algorithm. It's not. It's always coming back to we are responsible of what we say, what we think, and what we do. And I think that
True.
has a lot to do because we have a tendency to say, social media is bad. The kids are really, worse than they were before because of social media. I mean, it's a tool. It's a new tool. And at the end of the day, there is, good and bad. And there is how we use things, how we use, alcohol, how we use all the things that we can access, right? So I think that example of, the TikTok thing is, at the end of the day, do you really want to share more sadness? What does it bring you? Like, and don't get me wrong, it's an awful story and my heart is with the family. It's just, I'm not going to share it unless it really, it serves a purpose. You have to, it's all about, even if you're not a brand, actually, this is what I said. Now we should, when we're born and ejected from the womb, we come with a brand, basically.
Yes.
Even more right now, and it's seasonal because we grow, like we say, you and I, you say we're in another season of our lives, and what matters now is completely different what matters maybe 20 years ago for us.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's a purpose that we're following season by season. And so sharing whatever you share online or spending time even scrolling and looking at it, is it serving your purpose in life? Is it?
Yeah.
Maybe it is, and that's okay. But is it?
Yes, good question. Well said. And I think one of the points that a person who was at the festival was making in a news article was nobody who wasn't there should even be talking, because everything coming from someone else is conspiracy. You're surmising and you're making things up. So we talk about fake news as a giant problem, and I think this is how it originates. We all sort of put our agenda onto something, and then we try to share it, and then sometimes it serve the greatest purpose. So staying in today, since we have so many stories, we're going to have to cut it short a little bit. But I do want to cover one more story before we go, which is, again, staying in the TikTok world. And I think we both loved this one, didn't we? It's
the comment one.
Yes, this is a TikTok creator. His name is Rod, and he makes these videos which are fun. And you know what? I could not have made this narrative better. We're all about making marketing fun, right? And I think the example, I've got screenshots over here of how brands have been jumping onto this particular creator's work. And we talk about newsjacking, and this is a superb example. Brands are like, I don't have to create funny content on my own. I can just hop on to somebody who's doing a great job and work with him. So look at this from Trojan brand condoms, where it's like, you are our second favorite Rod. I mean, this guy's like, I'm sorry, but this is too much. And then there was another one from Tampax, which I thought was hilarious. Did you ever think you would see a tampon slide into your comments? And even Zoom got involved with with the whole thing.
Yeah.
So talk to me about how this phenomenon of brands starting to get involved and show their voice.
Well, I think there are two, like when you reach out to me around that story, there are two things that came to mind. Is that number one, I work for brands that are not as huge as Coca-Cola, but it's a brand and people recognize the brand. And it's all about, figuring out how to make it a human, bring the humanness behind a name, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and in one of the articles, I think it was the company called Decathlon in Singapore, was saying, our team, our social media team, are young people who love TikTok. And they're always in the know what's trending right now, so they can keep up. And so they're going to start and interact for a company with whatever is the trend. They're always on it, and they love it, and they love the company, the brand. They love. So this is why it's so important when you hire your marketing team to onboard people that are not only good at what they're doing, that's for sure, but also that believes in your brand.
Mm-hmm.
Because when it's time to, hijack some creator that are not as known as the brand and comment, you have to make sure that it fits your brand but it's still
Right.
also fun because you don't want to sound like an official brand. And so I find that it's really cool what the comments say. It's a good way of being a brand with a very a voice that's probably,
Yes.
this is where like each brand usually have a voice book. What is the voice that our brand is about? So
Yeah.
most of the values, those values you hear always. So maybe there is fun. Fun is one of the value. Joy is, because those comments are really cool, really like you don't want to, you smile, it brings you a smile.
Yes.
So
Yes.
there is that. But there is also the fact that being in the comments can be as, if not more, powerful than just producing your own content. And I'm talking
Preach
about,
it, preach it, preach it.
yeah.
Yes.
So
So true.
when I work with my women, I call them my women. They're mostly coaches and consultants. So they build a brand, personal brand
Mhm.
around their coaching activities. So what is the voice they want to bring online is one thing. And then most of the time they don't have any platform. So we start by going on others' platform that has
Yes.
people that really could become their clients or not, or could become business partners. And we get into the discussion, the fun discussion, the
Hmm.
educational discussion, the informational discussions. And then when people read the comments, what do we see? We see the little avatar, whether it's on TikTok, Instagram, or Facebook, or LinkedIn. There's an image. So if you have a cool comment, and it doesn't have to be complicated, people are gonna say, "Who said that?" They're gonna click, and then bam,
Click.
they're gonna discover your platforms. It's completely free. It brings your social values, like you are able to get into a conversation on someone else's planet, and then it brings
Hmm.
people to your own planet. So it's like that's what social media is about, conversation, right? So
I think
I
so. You're
love that
right.
example. Those are big brands, and so it has a huge splash, but even if you're just starting your personal brand on social media, start doing 5 to 10 comments on someone else's platform every day and see what happens.
It's so true. I like to compare it to real life situations. If you go join a
Yeah,
party,
yeah,
you're not going to go in and say, I'm going to stand here by myself and I'm going to preach my message and everybody come here and listen to me. You're going to go join a different conversation. And then maybe if that doesn't work for you, you go meet 2 or 3 other people and have a chat with them. So if you start thinking about social media as social, like you have to engage. Like
yeah.
broadcast only is dead. It's been dead for a while. So if you're wondering why your social doesn't have any impact, it's probably because you're not putting in the work on the other side. There were some other cool stories, Angelique, but we're going. We've been chatting about this for a while, so I think we'll just quickly let me mention a couple of other things that people should look at. One is the Reese's, the cereal. They've done some cool things about packaging. Take a look at that. This, I think, is worth paying attention to from the perspective that their regular package is $4, and this package on the right, which is blue for those who are watching this, it's $50 because it's got art by a famous artist, and it's got augmented reality on it,
I think it's going to be a
in which
Christmas gift.
yes, yes, it's very cool. I think this is the future. Brands are going to get more and more involved. Both of us were talking about Roblox and kids being into it, and how Chipotle did something with Roblox. I think more and more brands are going to get into that sort of virtual reality, augmented reality kind of space. So for that and a few other stories, feel free to follow us. We send out an email. And Angelique, thank you for joining me. Such a pleasure chatting with you today.
Thank you so much, Suzanne. It was fun.
Bye.